Mexico is building a new path that has its foundations in our memory, that of the indigenous peoples who forged glorious civilizations long before the Spanish invasion, and the fertile political history of a people with extraordinary heroes and heroines.
Mike, great to see you again.
Great to see you, bud.
Bye-bye. All right, folks.
Fucking terrible. Why the tension? Because I don't like Kamala Harris, and I think people who said vote Kamala Harris are wrong. You know, it's just that way. Am I an accelerationist? It doesn't matter whether I'm an accelerationist or not. We got accelerationism. What the fuck? Weird. Mike, you did take the gun and storm the DNC. Mike, if we had all stood on the one side of the Titanic, it would have moved the Titanic while they're turning towards the iceberg with the rudder.
Response to the 2008 crisis. You know, people forget there were millions of people who
I'm just very frustrated with that interaction. That's just crap. That was crap. No amount of people running on the boat will miss the iceberg if the captain is aiming for the iceberg. Yeah, I know. That's the point.
Portion would end up being the driver of the vote in the way that we hoped. And in 2022, it was a little bit obscured. Republicans had a greater turnout. It was just the way that it was distributed ended up being
I don't know why Sam was accusing you and other streamers of not endorsing Kamala. I have always said I had a very low standard for supporting Kamala Harris. I don't think of you it was hostile. It was a good conversation. I don't think he had a point. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Sam had a fucking point. Like that was, there was no point. Like, I don't know what the point was. He wanted to hear that he was right for supporting Kamala to the bitter end, which I did not do. The solution of like, hey, if we'd all just shouted from the rooftops, vote Kamala no matter what, it would have changed people's minds. You're never going to get that. I think Sam was more trying to ask you the importance or impact of a poll coming out mid-November. It's to change policy. You think she couldn't have... You think if she had changed 3 weeks before the election on Gaza, it would have caused at least some movement? In like, for example, Dearborn? It would have absolutely made a huge difference in a place like Dearborn. I can't make Dearborn suddenly decide that their friends and family aren't worth caring about. It's just very disappointing. Very disappointing conversation. See, the thing is, Sam just believes that if you're someone who ever said that Kamala Harris is not worth voting for, that you've crossed the line. You've crossed the line. You know, you've crossed the line. You're no longer acceptable because you say that don't vote for Kamala Harris because of the genocide. And it's like, you've crossed the line by allowing genocide to be something you will ignore. In my opinion, I think that you fucked yourself and the Democratic Party lost. So you sold out for Kamala Harris and it didn't even get a win. He also didn't react to the fact he also didn't react to the fact that I talked about Starmer and her plans to do anti-left purges. He didn't react to that at all. Why not? His disagreement with you is that there's no learning period after looting. You just organize and win. You need more people to come on your show so you can actually have a conversation without them pulling the plug. Yeah. I don't know what else. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was. I like Sam. I'll continue to like Sam, but it's just like, what can you say at that point? I think he was implying knowingly that your failure to endorse Kamala was an issue. Yeah. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's saying that I should have endorsed Kamala. And it's like, nah, no thanks. If you support fascism abroad and are willing to sell out Palestinians in pursuit of power, then don't be shocked when you bring it home and sell you out in pursuit of power. They did it with immigrants. They're already doing it with trans people. That was a point that I would have made if I got a chance. Your example of unionization rates hitting a 100-year low was met with denial of hope. Yeah, he started to very quickly take me off the screen when I said I'll bring it up. And by the way, when you search U.S. unionization hits record low, you know who the third blink is? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce celebrating it. Union membership as a percentage of the workforce hit a record low in 2023. U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Membership trend. 1955 to 2023. He's trying to pretend that there was some big union gain. Sam is stuck in the Psi 101 garbage of ignore what you can't control. Well, what you can and can't control is different than what you think you can and can't control. Is there any counter to his number of new unions? It could be. It doesn't matter. It's called participation trophy culture. I happily didn't vote for Kamala Harris, and I never will. This is my vote. Let me, you know what I mean? Like, I'll never, I'm so glad that I get to say I never voted for Kamala Harris. Thank God. I think because all these union strikes got picked up by the main media. Yeah, because it's called COPE. Listen, I think that people are more positive for unions, but it didn't deliver an actual unionization. So, like, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the cope and the messaging, or you want to cope on you want to look at the real number? Why did he kick me off? I don't fucking know. That was shorter than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be an hour, but whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. So-called progressives like AOC who sold out for Kamala have lost credibility among the left. Yes, that's a big problem. The other thing, libs. By the way, Dad Drake. Dad Drake. Sam Seder is proudly one of those people. Sam Seder proudly says that if it was 99% Hitler versus 100% Hitler, he would vote for 99% Hitler. Like, he's said that argument many, many times. Like, if it was between 50 concentration camps and 49 concentration camps, he would vote for the 49 concentration camp. He's already said that many, 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 many times. Now, I think as a matter of argument, that makes sense in a philosophy 101 classroom. But when you bring it out to the real world, that's not how politics works. Politics is not just making a choice to vote one time, one day out of the year. Politics is about an entire milieu of organizing and argument and belief. And creating a Democratic Party of people that would vote for 99% Hitler is what gets you Hitler. People need to have a little bit of irrational optimism. They need to have public, you need to be willing to say, I won't vote for that, so that the party elites who don't care about policies, who don't care about helping regular people, who care about power, realize that there's lines they can't cross. When you tell to the people in power, there's no line that they can't cross, well, then guess what? They're going to cross it. Like, all you have to do is change one person's mind, Kamala Harris. Well, he wants me to change the minds of millions. Like, that's literally what he's arguing. His argument is that it's harder to change Kamala Harris's mind than it is to change the minds of millions of people about their fundamental moral view on genocide. He believes it's easier for me to convince Muslim voters in Dearborn to ignore their family members' deaths and vote for Kamala Harris, who has not promised any difference on Gaza. Meanwhile, today, the United States of America is supporting more shit going on in Israel. We literally vetoed a ceasefire resolution at Security Council unanimously. Every other country. I didn't even get a chance to bring that up.
In favour of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024-835, please raise their hand. Those against? The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favour, 1 vote against, 0 abstentions. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote.
As someone who defended her, I high-key regret it. Yeah.
I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
The United States deeply regrets this Council finds itself here again. The United States worked for weeks in good faith to avoid this outcome. We made clear throughout negotiations we could not support an unconditional ceasefire that failed to release the hostages. Because, as this Council has previously called for, a durable end to the war must come with the release of the hostages. These two urgent goals are inextricably linked. This resolution abandoned that necessity, and for that reason, the United States could not support it.
Despite U.S. opposition based on the resolution's refusal to directly link Israeli hostages with the ceasefire, the resolution that was put to a vote demands an immediate, unconditional, permanent ceasefire to be respected by all parties and further reiterates its demand for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. This is the Democratic Party. If you just don't give a shit, I mean, like, I don't know what else to say at this point. It's just like, it's just shocking to me that people can hold the position that they're trying to hold without actually saying what their position is. I didn't even get to make fun of Rachel Bitcoffer. What was the bare minimum you would have expected in order to throw behind your support behind Kamala Harris? If she had publicly come out and said that she wanted an immediate ceasefire from in Israel, that she would condition aid to Israel unless they respected that ceasefire demand. If she had said that she supports a public option for health care and she wants to, pass the shit that Minnesota passed under walls. If she just did that, I could have supported her over Trump. And I think she would have won. She had said Joe Biden was not a good president.
¿Qué está pasando en nuestro
What is happening in our world?
Que en tan solo 2
That in
años
just 2
el
years,
gasto en
spending on
armas
weapons
creció
grew
casi
3
el
times
triple que la economía
more than the
mundial.
global economy. How is it that the economy of destruction reached spending of more than $24 trillion? How is that 700 million people in the world still live below the poverty line? It seems absurd, senseless, that there is more spending on weapons than on addressing poverty or climate change. We would reduce migration, hunger, if only we elevated the word love above hate, the generosity of the humble, and dispossessed person above greed, and the desire for domination. I refuse to believe that we are capable of creating artificial intelligence and incapable of lending a hand to those left behind. I come on behalf of a generous, supportive, and wise people to call on the great nations to build and not destroy, to forge peace, fraternity, and equality. Call us idealists, but I prefer that to being conformists. But just 6 weeks ago, I had the great honor of becoming the first female president of my country, and I did not arrive alone. We arrived. The peasant women, the migrants, the workers, the professionals, our grandmothers, our daughters, and our granddaughters. We arrived. All the Mexican women. I belong to a generation that fought against repression, authoritarianism, for social justice and democracy, and I come from a great people who decided to found a new history for my homeland through peaceful means. Since our political project began in 2018, Mexico is building a new path that has its foundations in our memory, that of the indigenous peoples, who forged glorious civilizations long before the Spanish invasion, and the fertile political history of a people with extraordinary heroes and heroines. It's really sad that Our country has none of this. And I can't even convince people who have good hearts to have standards, man. You're doing a fucking genocide right now. Humanism and our model of the moral economy. The neoliberal faith dogma that the market solved everything is behind us. It was proven that the theory that trickling down would benefit everyone was absurd. Every day we overcome the stage of disgraceful corruption and have managed to separate economic power from political power. The disdain for the people is in the past, and today a new era is being built with democracy and equality based on the maxim of shared prosperity, or put simply, for the good of all. The poor come first. Thanks to us, Mexico is one of the least indebted countries in the OECD, and with the lowest unemployment rate, the minimum wage has doubled in 5 years. Education and public health are strengthened as rights, and 80% of families receive direct support. We are at a historic record of foreign direct investment, and the Bank of Mexico reserves. Trains, roads, ports, airports are being built. Poverty has been reduced by more than 9 million people. Inequalities are decreasing. There is democracy, freedoms, plurality, and the right to dissent. Security and justice, institutions are strengthened, and peace is being built. It's just, you know, having any kind of morality is like very hard to be an American. Ultimately, I think people who blame voters who don't support Kamala do it because they want their vote to absolve them of any responsibility so they could assign total responsibility to others. Conditioning support was the right strategy based on material reality and not morality that could have given the disaffected reasons to vote. I mean, you know, they piloted us into a fucking pit with Donald Trump. He rushed you out after the union disagreement. Well, because I was spouting facts about how Biden was a bad president. Can't say Biden was a bad president. Can't say Biden's a bad president. We have to pretend he was a good president. One of the most ambitious programs I want to propose today is called Sowing Life. It consists of giving poor rural families a daily wage and technical training to plant timber and fruit trees, as well as other crops. We'll allocate $1,700 million each year to support 439,000 families in Mexico and 40,000 in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. In 6 years, more than 1 million hectares have been reforested with the planting of 1.1 billion trees, which is equivalent to capturing 30 million tons of CO2 annually. The proposal is to establish a fund to allocate 1% of our country's military spending to carry out the largest reforestation program in history. It would mean freeing up about $24 billion a year, 12 times what Mexico already allocates to support 6 million. Tree planters would reforest 15 million hectares, something like 4 times the area of Denmark, the entire area of Guatemala, Brazil, Belize, and El Salvador. Together with this, we would help mitigate global warming and restore the social fabric by helping communities out of poverty. The proposal is to stop sowing wars, let's sow peace, and let's sow life. What's wrong with the program? Why are we upset? I'm just sad that America sucks. Like we just vetoed a ceasefire resolution that all other members of the Security Council voted for. It's fucking sad, man. We've reached a bottom, possibly not but I mean, it's bad, man. It's just nothing makes me feel more doomer than people coping that telling people to vote for Kamala Harris was the right thing to do. You would think in the light of truth of her utter defeat, you would be like, well, that was probably wrong of me. Looks like that strategy didn't work. If you want a new path instead of the same old Gen X, like kind of, I think there's something, constitutional about many people that are Gen X, because Gen X was a much smaller generation than the baby boomers. And they kind of have this, they were kind of forced in supportive roles and kind of an inferior positions because the size of their generation was so small relative to the boomers. And they were always kind of oriented themselves toward this, like, their concerns were always sidelined, right? The most they could do is like maybe lean on one side or the other of the Titanic, right? But they didn't have control of the wheel. I can't believe the Liz Cheney meta didn't work. So, they were the generation that voted the most for Trump in this election. It was Generation X. So I do think that, like, I have a lot of really cool Gen X friends and everything, and I love Gen X, and I'm a zillennial, right? But we need a new path. We need a left that isn't so eager to play the junior partnership role. I don't even know what to say, man. That was just shocking to me. That was a shocking conversation. Yeah, this primary shit doesn't matter. The primary polls don't matter, guys. Yeah, follow Alyssa, guys. We don't know who it's gonna be. We have to wait and see what people run and what they run on. I don't know yet. I'd love to draft Sean Fain. Thoughts on Bashir? Machine politician. I don't trust any machine politicians. Like, legitimately, like, the fandom of Democrats is, like, shocking to me. Like, this is one of those things that you want to shut me up. Show me people fanning over Kamala Harris. I like, that's what's gonna get me befuddled. What's this? Handmade whipped cream? Guys, soon to not be redacted made me handmade whipped cream. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Thanks, VO. Wow. And like a small piece of cheesecake. But I'm not going to eat that right now. Jimmy Carter. Yeah, Jimmy Carter could run again. It's like, why do people want me to pick a politician right now? It's fucking November of 2024 still. Like, why are you guys so addicted to me picking some politician to run in 4 years from now? Like, we've got at least 2 years of events to happen before anyone runs or launches a exploratory committee. Like, what is even what is even the point of asking me that question? And by the way, the people that don't like me in MR, legitimately, most of it comes from the fact that I was an MR community member myself. And I left and made my own show, and I fought with people like Vaush, and I fought with people like Boa the Fifth Column, but I fought with people like Destiny, and and I became a successful political commentator. And I disagreed with some things, and there people there's nothing will make there's familiarity breeds contempt, right? The fact that I would hop into the Discord and Majority Report in 2016, you know what I mean, is a little bit. It must feel weird to then see me now, with more thousands and thousands of viewers competing with MR as far as live concurrence, right? Like, it is what it is, right? If I was in their chat, but the convo left a sour taste in my mouth, so I switched here. I mean, like, what the fuck was that? They literally said you were a sexual abuser at MR chat on YouTube. They said you were sexually assaulting your coworkers and all sorts of crazy shit. That is just slander. Who said that? That's just slander. It never happened. Like, what the fuck? That was Destiny viewers, by the way, in case you're wondering what that is. That's Destiny viewers, man. That's what they're doing. Like, my Lord in heaven. Opium comes at a high price. This is what I was trying to explain to Sam Seder. My Lord. One of the most important pieces of divergence here is that we on the left are saying we need to build a movement independent of the Democrats in elections. The libs just want to organize for the next election for the Democrats. I would organize for the Democrats if they, like, I love MR and I don't know what the fuck that was. You know, I need to go watch that myself and process that. I think there's certainly like a YouTube mafia sort of situation because I'm not a YouTuber. So I think one of the things I need to fix is I need to get much more of a presence on YouTube. And there definitely are some MR mods that don't like me. I'm not really sure why. But it's not the crew. But it is what it is. A lot of people on the left don't like you, not just and it's you don't sugarcoat anything and treat them with kid gloves on. It's a clerical flaw of them. I mean, it is a character flaw of mine to not be able to handle that, right? This is my new campaign, guys. Carter 2028. He could run again. He only served one term. Why not? Why not? Why not go back to the original neoliberal president? It was the union thing you broke his hobby horse. Well, no, that was like one of the most important lies that I see continually repeated is that Joe Biden was some big pro-union president. It's like unionization hit a record low. Like he didn't move the needle for unions.
Pointing together.
It's the same argument that Walter Masterson made. More oil, but climate change. Less union workers, but unionization. Rhetoric trumps policy outcomes. Exactly what I've been trying to get people to stop doing. Biden was good for unions. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. No, he absolutely was not. Biden stopped he broke a strike with a federal law. And the unionization rate is at a record low. Like after 4 years, after 3 years of his presidency, record low unionization rate. Like you're just coping. Participation trophy president. Now, there's a lot of really cool people in the union movement, and there are cool people at the National Labor Relations Board, and I wish we had more of them. But the idea that he was a good president for unions is, and yet, I guess union workers are all insane then, right? They're all insane because they don't believe it. They did end up getting their sick days. It's fair to count that as a win. That's if you're oh my Lord, like you actually stopped me because you must be a gifted sub, right? Like what the fuck are you talking about, man? He literally normalized using force to break a strike. Yeah, he gave them crumbs. But he used federal force to break a strike, which normalizes the use of federal force to break strikes. Like, what are you talking about? It was a disaster. Now, yeah, I'm glad they got some of their things later, but but guess what? What is like? Look at the dynamic of what you're supporting. You're supporting the dynamic where workers earn things because it's a beneficence from the president, as opposed to a thing that workers earn through direct action. What do you think hurts unions in the long run? By taking the power of economic direct action out of the hands of unions and normalizing using federal law to break the strike, you actually make unions weaker in the long run. And your hyper-focus on some specific demand is just cope. The majority of workers of the numerous affiliated rail units disapproved of Biden breaking the strike and disapproved of their bosses caving to Biden's negotiations. The vast majority of rail union members' policy workplace demands were not met. Of course they weren't. But we shouldn't ignore it. I also think his NLRB is overhyped. Of course it's all overhyped bullshit. This is the thing that's the reality. Record low unionization rate. There's a softer argument to be made here. Biden was the most pro-worker president since Reagan. This bar is in hell. I know, exactly. Like, do you see how that's all rhetoric and bullshit? Participation trophy politics. That's why we lose. Because everybody is so focused on he was the most since blah, which is a meaningless point. The only thing that you should be asking yourself is, what are more people unionized as a percentage of workers in this country or less? And the answer is less. People are becoming less engaged with organized labor. Now, there are some great union leaders that I love, and I've been behind the Starbucks Workers Union and the UAW and all that shit, the Teamster strike. I was 100% behind the UPS shit, and I was behind all of that. And I've been fighting for the writer's strike and the actor's strike. Like, yeah, I support that. And I love that people love unions more. But the reality is, at the end of the day, he didn't move the needle. And you're never going to get a better country with these kind of facts hitting you in the face. It's like saying oh, yes. Oh, my God. This is such a good. Oh, my God. This is such a good post. This is why I love my chatters. Most of the times you guys are so smart. Holy shit, this post is so good. Hold on. This is what I'm talking about, chat. I just want to praise you guys for keeping me from going insane. Saying it's having a moment is like saying Palestine is having a moment is exactly right. Yes, unions are having a moment. Palestinian rights is having a moment. But what is actually happening to unions? What is actually happening to Palestinians, right? Like, yeah, sure, more Americans openly support Palestine. But in reality, the policy is worse than ever. The reality for Palestinians is worse than it's ever been. Going back to 48. Same thing with unions. Oh, wow, we got some like paper win. We got some paper wins. Meanwhile, less people are members of unions than ever before. And the people that are members of unions are voting against the Democrats at the highest rate they've ever been. That's pro-union? I'm not saying that I expect perfection. I'm not saying that I expect perfection. I think the first reaction to everything I'm saying from somebody like Sam Seder would be to say, oh, you expect perfection. I don't expect perfection. I just expect unionization rate. Instead of it going from 10.1% to 10%, that it goes from 10% to like 15%, right? That still means 85% of workers are without a union. If Biden had been able to get the Green New Deal, put a bunch of solar panel and battery factories across the country with high-paying union jobs, the transformation of our country would be overnight. I mean, it's not even like that's the thing. He didn't do that, and they want me to pretend that like he did that, right? And it's like that's why the Democrats are losing, because you can always spin so much bullshit before reality hits. The average home buyer is 56 years old. Notice that Sam didn't have much of a point. He did. By the way, every time I brought up a substantive point, Sam Seder didn't deal with it. He didn't contend with it, which is very disappointing for a debate, right? If that was apparently a debate about whether I should have endorsed Kamala Harris. I'm just very confused. Sometimes you take a hit and you're just like, what the fuck? You're just like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? I'm going to send y'all over to the brain domain. Because he'll rightfully, I know he'll raid Vio, right? So, I'm just kidding. Well, I need a little bit of mental health treatment after that conversation. Thanks a lot, everybody. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'll see you all soon. Love ya. Kisses. Say hi.